Wings like the P51s don't have a constant shape, and that makes setting the CG up a little bit more difficult. The menu shows making a mark at this point of the wing on either side, so I do it on both sides, connect that with tape, and then we can go back and connect those two dots. Then I use a straight edge to make a single thin line that connects both of these dots. I use the Easy Balancer, and one single thin line like this lets me be very accurate with that unit. Each of the saddles on the Easy Balancer has this cut in the middle of the saddle, and we line that up with the CG line on the wing. It seems like warbirds tend to come out being either very tail heavy or very nose heavy. Right now my P51 is nose heavy, but it's not that bad. Whenever I add lead, I always try and add it as far from the CG line as possible. And I can go through a bunch of different weight amounts trying to sneak up on the right amount. I'll spare you the hunting and pecking part of this story and tell you that we put 2 1/4 ounces of lead at the tail. I drilled 3 larger holes in the lead for the screws to pass through, and I will drill pilot holes into the wood itself on the airplane. We want this weight to stay here, so besides the sticky backs on the weight itself, I'm putting some CA on the thread of the screws that I'm going to use to secure it. After I get some time on the P51 and decide that this is actually the amount of lead I want, I can sink this into the wood back here and hide it all together. Now with my lead bolted on, I check again and the plane's totally neutral. Surfaces like this are bound to get some fuel and oil on them, so I put 3 or 4 coats of balsa on these to help protect them. And we got to make it look all nice, so now's a good time to put the stickers on it. The instructions tell you how to mix up some water with dishwashing soap in it to help position the stickers better, but I like using this rapid tack that I get from B&E Graphics. Either one will work, this one works better. It surprises me some about how few illustrations the instruction manuals give you for placing the graphics. I look up what I can in the instruction manual and then wing it on the rest of them. And for the guys out there saying, boy, you did a sucky job on this, just remember that it's my plane, I don't care, and go away. One of the last things that go on my planes is my ID tag. I'll bet you can find several airplanes at any flying field that don't have these tags, even though we're supposed to. 20 minutes before we made this video, this was a totally empty, brand new fuel system, feeding a motor that hadn't run in months. I've been getting email from some of you folks about trying one of these planes on the standard landing gear that comes with the kit. So this has the standard wire landing gear under it, and you can see how good that is when you're flipping a motor. And those wire landing gear aren't any better looking when you get the motor running and driving this thing around in the grass. Of course, I hadn't done that yet because I haven't got the motor running. But we're going to shortly here, and I'll be just as shocked as you are when it does start driving in the grass. You want to let the motor warm up a little bit, so Clark, the cameraman that shoots most of my flight videos, decided to get creative. And he flies a glider now and then. But he does a great job on the flight videos, so we're going to have to cut him some slack on that other stuff. And you get to see that I put the stickers on both sides of the plane. And right in here is where I'm really hoping that I did everything right in this plane, because we're going to film the maiden as it happens. But to be honest, it's a top flight kit and I've got a lot of faith in their planes. But I'm not liking their wire landing gear in the kit anyway. And when this thing hangs a left, there was no way I was going to turn this thing back with them little spindly landing gear flexing around underneath the plane. Just let it accelerate and take off. Not a problem. The EME 60 isn't having any problems hauling this plane around at all. Without the fuel, this P51 weighs 20 pounds, almost right on the button, but it sure doesn't fly that like it's that heavy. It needed a bit of up elevator and some left aileron to get it flying straight, and I went a little too far in the ailerons, I think, early on here and get that straightened out later. One of the reasons I like using a couple of flight modes with a warbird like this is that at high speed they tend to balloon a little bit. I can make a flight mode for the high-speed flight and program some down elevator in it, and everything's fine. This is still in the maiden flight, and I decided to put the flaps down and see what this thing handled like on approach. P51's definitely not as floaty as my P47 is, but it's still a decent landing airplane. With the flaps out, you carry a little bit of throttle, and you can control the sink pretty well. All of the control throws are per the manual, and they're even a little bit sensitive on landing. And with those wire landing gear, you want to make sure that you're flying the tail the whole time. Right around in here, I heard the throttle do something that I didn't think I did, but then I could make it repeat it. But I thought we better get this on the ground and take a look at it. But then all the way to the field, it ran fine, and I pretty much forgot about that, and we'll just gas it up and get ready for a longer flight next time around. Besides, it was just one little burble, and it really didn't do anything. It was just that one little instance, and it was gone. And now with my extensive practice of one landing previously, see if we can set this thing down a little cleaner this time. And it does come in real nice. Our field runs downhill here, so a 20-pound airplane with wheels that turn real easy actually needs some kind of brakes. Lacking that, I just run it into the taller grass next to the runway. Watch the wheels as the P51 comes back, and you'll see what I mean about those wire gear flopping around. This is the second flight on a P51, and it starts out great, nice takeoff, and flies nice, but then towards the end of this, the pucker factor goes way up. I still haven't adjusted the carburetor on the EME 60 because it seems to be running just great. And it's not having any problems pulling the P51 around. I'm messing around with the flight modes in here a little bit, trying to get it so it'll settle down towards the ground more when I make a high-speed pass. If nothing else, the P51 is a gorgeous airplane in the air. As it's going around, I make some more adjustments to that F mode, and I think you'll see that we got that a lot better this time. I added 3 or 4 clicks of down trim on the elevator to try and force this thing so it's a little bit down coming by, and that worked out pretty well. This time I get a pass that's low enough where I can hold the wing down when it goes by to give you a good look at the plane. Here I decided to pull the P51 up on a 45 upline, flip it inverted, and let go of the sticks. And like the Easy Balancer told me, the balance is perfect because it just continued on. I tried that same maneuver in either direction, and it seems like the balance is right on the money. As frequently happens at our field, the wind changed directions, and I wanted to try shooting a couple approaches from the other way because our field actually comes uphill from this direction. As I was making this turn in, I heard that thing with the throttle burping again, and I couldn't get it to do it again, but then right in here when I realized I was too high, had too high RPM, I gave it full throttle and nothing happened. The throttle servo died. I was sure that the plane was going in the trees out there, so I was trying to keep the wings nice and level and using the rudder all I could to turn it. Here a little gust of wind got under it and lifted it up some, but I knew I had one shot at the runway and didn't know if I had the energy to make it, but just enough. Just before we got to the runway, I shut the motor off to try and save the prop if it nosed over.